Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you to those that have already joined the webinar. We've got rather a large number of people joining us today, so if everybody's okay and can be a little bit patient for a few minutes, we'll just give everybody opportunity to join. So yeah, just bear with us a few minutes and we'll get started. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. There's still people joining, but we'll make a start, and we obviously want to try and keep to time. Yeah, we're here today to kind of share with you more about how we can assure medical devices and look at that into that kind of area of cybersecurity and to kind of share more about our partnership with Cynerio. Before we kind of get into the kind of main part of the presentation, just a couple of things. We do have an opportunity for questions, so if you can place those into the questions box, please. We'll deal with those towards the end of the webinar. And as we close the webinar, there is a survey. If you've got a few minutes just to complete that, kind of just helps us improve and make sure that we're getting the content and the style and approach right for everybody. So I hope that's okay. So I'm Chris Booth. I'm Healthcare Account Manager for ITHealth. For those of you who don't know ITHealth, we've been working in the IT sector within the NHS for about 30 years now, and our focus areas around cybersecurity, assurance, and authentication management. And this afternoon, so I'm joined by Ryan Hewitt. Ryan, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Afternoon, everybody. I'm Ryan Hewitt, the Regional Director for Cynerio in the UK and Ireland.
Thank you. We've also got a colleague on from Cynerio as well, Andy Conliffe, who's one of the sales engineers, and Andy will be available to help us answer any kind of more technical questions towards the end. So thanks, Ryan. So I know that many of you will be aware of the ITHealth dashboard. This is a solution that's kind of about 4 years old now, 3 to 4 years old, and was kind of born out of conversations with a number of our long-standing customers. And really that solution is working in approximately 130 hospitals now, or NHS organisations, should I say, to give visibility of what we call managed assets. And I'll kind of explain that in a second. And we wanted to just make sure that we touched on this as we began this webinar, because this kind of forms a really key part of what we want to talk about. And it's about gaining visibility of all of your assets. And we know that the dashboard is probably looking at a large percentage of those, but there's a piece we want to kind of move on to around that medical device piece and those unmanaged devices. And the whole point of this is that you've got that visibility, you can understand what the threats are that exist across those assets, and you can then work out how to apply the right resource at the right time for the right reason to make sure that you've got a 100% or as close to assurance. And again, for those of you that have got the dashboard, you'll also be aware of the other facets that come into it in terms of how we've tailored it specifically for an NHS audience. And it includes all of these things and more to come as we kind of move towards on our roadmap towards new releases. But and I don't want to dwell on all of these in a lot of detail. And if there's people who want to talk to us about the dashboard specifically, then we'll be happy to do that, via a kind of separate session. But we're talking about understanding hardware and software assets and the vulnerabilities that exist against them. We're looking at things like unsupported and end-of-life software. What is your patching status and trending? Cyber alerts, automation, tracking those, making sure you've got full visibility of those alongside vulnerabilities. DSPT compliance reporting, we'll hear more about that later. Then being able to understand things like your level of compliance with ATP, AV, encryption. We're going to come on to IoT and OT, medical device detection, in a second. But then we kind of get into a much wider piece, which is what does that bigger picture look like, and how do we then manage this and provide you with a kind of a service? And that's really where that we talk about our wrapper, and that's where that comes in terms of tailoring your specific environment to make sure, we know that organizations are very similar, but you have your own requirements. So we tailor the dashboard to your specific requirements or allow you to do that. And then around that, there's this management reporting. So all of our customers receive 2 reports on a monthly basis. One is a very kind of wide report of all of the aspects that we've identified over in working with, with you collaboratively over the last 3 years, but also an executive summary report, which shows changes from the previous month. So this is very much seen as a service offering, and it's very much seen as something you've got within your environment, but also we've kind of got that wrapper and that kind of experience around that to help you with the things that you kind of want to look into a bit deeper. As I say, we've got approximately 130 customers. Many of you are on today, many of you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. Again, if those of you that want to talk about is outside of that, then please do. And we've got multiple case studies now and some nice testimonials from customers as well. So that's really good stuff. So what we're really trying to say is this is a well-established solution. It's something that people trust, and we get comments like it's the first thing that I look at in the morning, and that we don't know what we do without it. So that's really great to hear. We love kind of getting that feedback. As I mentioned, here's an example of those monthly reports. These are automated. We send these out to you, and in the same way, as part of that service wrapper, if a high severity care cert or critical comes out, then we'll notify you about that. We know that you'll get them anyway, but we will send you an update directly to those nominated persons, and therefore to tell you that that is now in your dashboard, and you can then go and look at that and you can see how it affects you. So again, it's all part of that service that we offer, trying to take the pressure away, trying to allow you to manage those resources in a sensible way, rather than trying to, constantly trying to work out. And then as we turn our attention to things like DSPT, we kind of start to think about the new things that are coming in, and we start to see that section 9, which I'm sure you're all aware of, that's now asking about maintaining that registered medical devices. Again, Ryan's going to go into this in much more detail, but how do you do that? How do you assure that posture of those devices when they operate in a different way, and that they're not necessarily in your current dashboard? And between the two of us in this partnership, with ITHealth are kind of saying, well, look, we've got 40 of those evidence items that we can support directly, and again, from a Cynerio point of view, there's 30. So we're kind of trying to give this 360-degree view of what's going on and how we make sure we continue to provide you with that visibility of all of your assets and not just the ones that we've got within the dashboard. So what we've done, we've brought these two products together, and we've kind of looked at how we provide that in terms of a modular solution. And kind of the first step on that is that we have the ability to bring that information into the dashboard, into the ITHealth dashboard. And you see on that option 1 there on the screen, we talk about reporting only, bringing the information in and applying the same kind of logic that we do to other assets, although these are managed in a different way and these are detected in a different way, which again we'll come on to, giving that visibility to allow you to address those requirements that are now coming out in section 9 of DSPT, but also give you that visibility in the knowledge that these are maybe managed by other departments, medical physics or medical engineering as an example. And we always get into conversations about, well, who is responsible for them? Who's responsible for the the management and looking at what goes on with regards to meeting the risk and managing the risk of those devices. We're going to come on to what then follows on, and Ryan will touch more on option 2 and option 3 in terms of rapid risk reduction and the attack detection and response pieces. So I will kind of leave that in, but that adds on to this kind of this kind of roadmap that we're now working on. Again, if you're not familiar with the dashboard as it currently stands, this is the kind of view that you'll be working with today. And if you, just as a reminder, you look across the top here, you'll kind of see all these tabs that you can see my mouse moving, but Windows Assurance, Care Certs, Vulnerabilities, and the Support, DSPT. These have all been built out to specifically meet the requirements of our NHS customers. And again, if you want to know more about that, then please contact us or let us know. We can come on to that later on. But what I wanted to kind of just briefly share with you is the work that we've already done in terms of bringing some of that medical device information in. So again, if you're familiar with the dashboard, you'll be familiar with these tabs at the top here, the blue tabs, and now we see a medical device tab here. And what we've done here is we've used the Cynerio collector to acquire this information about medical IoT and IoT and bring it into the dashboard. So this is where we see that option 1 coming into play. We can see devices, we can group them, we can look at how we create these columns to give us our risk levels, what they are, what the assets are, what the risks are, probability of exploitability, and a raft of information. And again, we've been talking about this concept for some time in terms of bringing this information into the dashboard to meet those initial needs that DSPT are now kind of bringing out, but also to kind of give you that much wider view of these other assets that your dashboard isn't potentially picking up as we speak because of the way that it scans. And we can then go into a bit more detail. We can see risk scoring of those devices. But again, I wanted to kind of make sure that you understood that this is that option 1 level is going to be inside the dashboard, and that integration work has already been done. At this point, I kind of want to hand over to Ryan, and we want to get into much more detail about how the Cynerio product works. You've seen how we can bring it into the dashboard, but how it works, how it functions, what it does, and what we can do with it beyond that feed into our dashboard to give that full 360 view of all of your assets. So I'm now just going to pass over control to Ryan.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, hello again, everybody. Thanks for joining. So my name is Ryan Hewitt, and we've got Andy, our sales engineer, that's joining the call. For those of you that have joined a little bit later and didn't catch the intros at the beginning, if you have any questions, then please do pop them into the chat, and then we'll endeavour to answer them at the end in the Q&A session. So we're really excited about this partnership that we have with ITHealth for all of the reasons that Andy has taken us through. Obviously, they've got a very well established security product that is doing great things in terms of helping their customers identify and manage their owned and controlled devices and aligning that to DSP. Obviously, what we're bringing to the table is essentially the same from an IoT and medical device perspective, and including DSP as well. So the integration of these platforms, and I'll touch on this in a slide that's towards the end of the deck, but the integration of these platforms really is to provide, as Andy said, a 360-degree view across all of the connected devices, what their levels of vulnerability are, what that means from an organizational security posture perspective, and also the capabilities within our platform means that we can then go on and secure those devices and make your environments inherently safer. Our goal, as you can see, is to secure every IoT, OT, and medical device within a healthcare environment. So we are a healthcare-only cyber security and governance platform. That's not just marketing spin. Our product simply wouldn't work outside of a healthcare environment. So we're all aware that the challenges from a cyber attack perspective, the volume of cyber attacks are increasing globally across all verticals, in particular healthcare. Our sort of ethos, if you like, the rationale behind why we've built this product is that healthcare is very nuanced. It has its own challenges that are very independent to healthcare. So it needed a product that was built from the ground up that addressed those particular challenges and nuances, and hopefully that will become evident as we step through this webinar. So quickly about who we are. I wouldn't forgive anybody for never hearing about us or heard of us. We've been in the UK about 10 months now. We're an Israeli company founded just under 5 years ago. We're headquartered in New York. Despite the fact that we've only been in the UK for, as I say, around 10 months, we've just secured our fourth acute trust, which is not bad going, we think, for, as I say, a company that nobody's really ever heard of before. And really, that's testament to the quality of the product and its capabilities. In particular, the fact that we are absolutely laser beam focused on addressing not just the challenges for healthcare, but also the very specific challenges of the NHS. And again, we've got some slides that touch on that. So healthcare organisations are numbers that we've seen from our customers and from our POCs. So what we're seeing is roughly around 35 to 45% of all connected devices within NHS organisations are unknown, unmanaged IoT and medical devices. So quite a significant percentage. With medical devices, there is some visibility. Medical engineering will have a CMMS database that might not be as up to date as they would like, but at least there is a list of devices that are connected in. Doesn't offer an awful lot in terms of the way of what those devices' vulnerabilities are and what that means to your organization from a security posture perspective, but at least there is a list, so you have some degree of awareness what's connected. What we're seeing with IoT, and IoT outnumbers medical devices by about 3 or 4 to 1, is that there is very little, very little awareness, if any awareness, of what's connected into the infrastructure. And of course, that's through no lack of due diligence of any IT team. There simply isn't the tooling there to provide visibility into what's connected. So the number of devices that sit in that blue part of the pie chart is averaging out around 5,000 per hospital that we've connected our solution into. And let's make no bones, these are the most vulnerable devices that you could have or you do have connected into your environment. And apologies if that sounds like scaremongering, but that's unfortunately the reality of the situation. We're talking CT scanners, blood gas analyzers, door card entry systems, 3D printers, devices that have got operating systems that are 10, 15 years old and have never been patched. And obviously we're all aware of the inherent threat that those sort of devices introduce. 70 to 80% of the medical and IoT devices that we've detected across our UK customers have at least one critical vulnerability. So there'll be some vulnerabilities in there that I'm sure will be familiar to some, if not all. Again, quite a significantly high number, and actually the vast majority of them have more than one critical vulnerability. And when we sort of start to piece this together and we align that with DSPT, I think it's fair to say that most organizations' DSP response is derived from the devices that you have visibility of, the devices that sit in the blue part of that pie chart. When we start to look at the other devices, obviously that's going to change and influence what that DSP response looks like. So what does Cynerio do? How do we help address this problem? Well, firstly, we're a 1U appliance. We connect into your network. We need an IP address. We connect into a SPAN port. We need a small firewall change to allow some traffic out to our cloud. And we are completely passive. Okay, so there is absolutely no scanning, no probing, and that's a really, really important point, because when we're talking about IoT and in particular medical devices, it's actually quite dangerous to scan them. It can cause them to hang. So we are completely passive. You connect us in, and the first thing that we do is we find everything that is connected to your network. We identify your corporate devices, but we don't really sort of classify those. We've got a list of them, but where we're focusing in on is anything that's a headless device, anything that's IoT or medical device, and we will find. And we have found some very interesting devices connected into not just the NHS, but our global customers. Things like car parking barriers and Tesla cars, and the NHS very much likes echo devices and other such things. So if it's a headless device, then we're going to find it, and we're going to be able to provide quite granular information around all of these devices. So make, model, serial number, operating version, patch level, etc., etc. Are these systems vulnerable? So we will tell you at scale, at a device level, what the vulnerabilities are across all of your IoT and medical devices. Now, we do that because we understand what these devices are and their operating systems, but we're also pulling in various threat feeds, including NHS cyber alerts. So what this enables us to do is tell you on an individual device level and at a fleet level exactly what the levels of vulnerabilities are, but we roll that up into an organizational score. So it's very, very difficult, not just within healthcare, but across any sector. If you ask an organization, how secure are you right now? That's a really challenging question to answer, particularly if you haven't got visibility of a significant percentage of the devices that are connected into your infrastructure. Understanding where you are right now and how that differs from last week, last year, again, is a really, really challenging question to answer. So what we do is we understand all of the devices, the risk that they pose to your organization, and we roll that up into a single score out of 100. And the idea is we want to try and get you to 100, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. So if we're finding quite a significant amount of devices connecting into every single healthcare organization, that would make for a very, very busy dashboard, a dashboard that's full of very, very vulnerable devices. And we're acutely aware that it's very easy to get alert fatigue. So the AI and within the platform actually distills all of this information down, and we prioritize where you need to look, because we're also aware that within healthcare, particularly within the NHS, it's not uncommon to have a disproportionately small team to the size of the infrastructure. So just throwing a dashboard up full of warning signs is not necessarily the most helpful thing to do. So we use the AI, the clinical AI within our platform, because we are healthcare specific. We understand what all of these devices do to help distill it down and prioritize it. An example of this is a screenshot from one of our reports within our platform. So on the X and Y axes, you can see that we've got probability and we've got severity. The circles represent known vulnerabilities. The size of the circles represent the number of devices on your network that have this particular vulnerability. What we want to do is focus your attention on devices that, yes, have a high level of vulnerability, but also have a high level of exploitability. You may have devices on your infrastructure that have quite significant levels of vulnerability, but we've never seen them exploited in the wild. We know that there's no script kits for them. So yes, we need to look at those at some point, but you've got devices that may actually have vulnerabilities which are less severe, but they've got a very high level of exploitability. So we're not just throwing bad news at you. We're not just saying, right, here's a dashboard full of very vulnerable devices. We're helping you to prioritize where you need to look first. And we continue that by highlighting to you the devices that are delivering patient safety. These are devices that are plugged in, and we really want to prioritize these for obvious reasons. Service disruption, devices that are delivering secondary patient care, so things like PAC servers or gateway devices for blood gas analyzers, whatever the case may be. and devices that are transmitting patient confidentiality, as medical devices love to do that in clear text. So we're really sort of helping you as an organization prioritize where you need to look and what needs to take priority. The next thing we're doing is we're analyzing everything in real time. So up until this point, we've got a really granular snapshot of devices that potentially you didn't really know were connected into your network. We've told you how vulnerable they are, what that means to you and your organization specifically from a security posture perspective, but what is everything doing? So we're analyzing the flow of communication of everything in real time. And again, we're healthcare only, so we understand what a CT scanner from GE should be doing. We understand what nominal behavior looks like. That doesn't mean that we make the assumption it's one size fits all. If medical devices in your environment are doing something different to what we've seen before, the AI within the platform will go, okay, it's talking to another device, another medical device over using medical protocols, so that's also okay. What this enables us to do, however, is then spot anomalous traffic. Why is that device talking on ports and protocols to another device it's got no need to talk to? A great example of this is one of our first POCs, or in fact the first POC that we did in the UK. We found a DICOM workstation that was Bitcoin mining. Last week we found a UK trust that had a device that was infected with WannaCry. This is the part of the platform that identifies all of that, and this is running real time, 24/7, 365. So we've captured all of this information. We understand all of these devices, what the level of vulnerability is, what they're doing in real time. What that then enables us to do is two things. Firstly, we have something called rapid risk reduction. So this is a proactive toolkit that we have that enables us to identify and then suggest mitigation mechanisms to secure the most critical devices. So I use this analogy quite a lot. The fox is always going to get into the hen house. There is nothing that's going to stop that, and there isn't a security product on the market that's going to stop anybody from being hacked. So the fox is always going to get in. Let's protect those hens. Let's make sure that when an attack does happen, the most critical devices that you have are secured. Now, I'm sure most people on this call would have heard of microsegmentation. That forms part of this toolkit, but certainly not everything that we can do. So there's a lot of tactics that we've got, and I'm not going to go into all of them now. But it's things like detecting that a particular device is there's a patch available for it from the manufacturer. So we'll say, right, the quickest way to take this device from a 9.8 down to a 2.7 is to download this patch and get it installed. So we'll provide you a link to the patch, all of the supporting documentation. That might be something that medical engineering has to do. But the point of rapid risk reduction is to analyze all of the vulnerabilities, align it with the devices that they're on, and then as quickly and as efficiently as possible, reduce the risk that your organization is being exposed to. Microsegmentation is obviously going to form a big part of that. A lot of medical devices, unfortunately, there's no updates available. There's no patches that you can download. So what we do, we integrate into your switching infrastructure, your wireless infrastructure, your firewall. We create policies based on the behavior of every device that we're seeing, and then we can push that policy out into your infrastructure to ring fence those devices, create that sort of micro-segmentation bubble. So your medical devices and your critical IoT devices can only do the job that they need to do. They can only talk to the devices that they need to talk to. Other than that, they're completely ring fenced. So when that fox does get into the hen house, they're rendered invisible. We've got an awful lot of intelligence sort of driving all of this, as you can imagine. We do something called virtualized segmentation. So once the policies have been created, we run them in a sandboxed environment. By default, this is 20 days, but it's down to you how long you want to run it. And we run this against the actual traffic on your network to make sure that if there are any violations, if there are any traffic flows that we haven't caught, we will catch them. You get the opportunity to add them into the policy or not. What this means is that when the policy is pushed out into your network, you've got complete assurance it's the right policy, and we're not going to restrict any medical devices from doing what they need to do. There's a few other things within this rapid risk reduction toolkit. As I say, we're not going to have time to sort of really drill down into this. This is an hour on its own, but the whole point is understand risk, reduce it as quickly as possible. The second part to what we do is, as I mentioned, attacks are likely. What happens if you get attacked? Okay, so if you've got our product and you've deployed rapid risk reduction into your environment, we're securing all of the critical assets, all of your medical assets, but the fox is going to get in. So what do we do? And this is what we do with ADR, attack detection and response. So this is real-time behavioral analysis that will detect when an attack is happening. The difference between us and some other products that you may have heard of that do sort of something similar is that because we're contextually aware of the network that we're plugged into, we know that this is an attack that's emanating from a CT scanner, and that CT scanner is currently in use. So we can evaluate the threat from the attack, and we can align that with the importance of that device and the fact that it's currently treating a patient. So our remediation, our real-time zero-day remediation, will be proportionate to the whole situation. We're not just going to come in and try and knock something off the network. We're acutely aware of what's happening, excuse the pun, from a medical and clinical perspective. There's also a lot of cyber attack forensics within ADR. So we're probably all aware that if a breach does happen, the ICO, NHSD, NHSE will ask some questions. How did they get in? Are they still there? Was there any EPHI exfiltrated? We will provide you all of the answers to that and give you the assurance that no, they're not in. The door has been closed. We can confidently bring our bring our systems back up again. The last thing we do is, are we using our systems efficiently? This is more for the medical engineering teams. Because we're seeing all of this medical traffic, we're able to then provide the medical engineering folk with a lot of really interesting data that they may not have had access to before in terms of the utilization of these devices. And what we're seeing, particularly coming out of the US, because we're still very new in the UK, but what we're seeing here is some really interesting use cases. Organizations have made capital cost savings as a result of this data, because why do we need to buy 50 more of these when we're underutilizing 12% of what we already have? Also another really interesting use case from the US, because we integrate into anything that's got an API, including medical engineering CMMS database. There were two devices, I think they're blood gas analyzers, IV pumps. One was flagged as retired, the other one was flagged as lost, and we were detecting them in use, delivering patient care on the network. So obviously we alerted the relevant people. So I've covered quite a lot of ground there in not a lot of time. So just to sort of very quickly summarize. So you plug us into your network, very quick and easy. Takes about an hour and a half to get us up and running. We will find everything on your network, complete inventory. We will tell you what all of those vulnerabilities, all of those devices are, what that means to your organization from a security posture perspective, real-time behavioral analysis. And this is the data set that gets sent over to ITHealth. So the ITHealth customers that are on the call, This information sits within ITHealth's dashboard. We then have rapid risk reduction. This is the proactive part of our product that secures your medical devices and other critical assets before an attack happens, so that when an attack does happen, these devices will not be impacted. However, devices attacks are likely to happen, unfortunately. There's nothing that can stop that. So attack detection and response, real-time, zero-day security. When something happens, we will be there to stop it. And just on ADR, I forgot to mention it earlier on. ADR as a tool, obviously there's a lot of AI driving that, but it's not just AI. Everything that ADR flags is analyzed by a team called Cynerio Live. Now, this is a 24/7, 365 team based out of Israel. Highly trained cyber analysts. Every time one of our customer has an ADR event, it is validated by an expert so that we cut down on false positives. So if ADR says that there is an event in play, we know that there is a real-time event happening. And of course, it's then down to you as to how you handle that. The product will then be able to automatically stop that threat, or will offer you the opportunity to click the button to say, yeah, okay, Cynerio, we want you to go and mitigate that risk. And lastly, the medical device utilization. So just sort of pivoting now for more of an informational governance perspective. We've integrated the DSP toolkit into our product, and this is resonating really well with the people that we're talking to about this. This is coming out in Q4. So as you can see, we'll provide a summary of all of the assurance items. We'll then tell you in real time what your level of compliance is and why you may not be compliant. And as you may have noticed on the right-hand side, we've got clickable links. So you click this link, and we will then essentially do whatever is required to make you compliant, or certainly help you become compliant. So the one at the top is a very sort of straightforward one. A list of assets holding EPHI. You're not compliant because the list is available and it hasn't been reviewed. So you click on the link, we will generate that list for you. You subscribe to that. So you say, right, I want this list delivered every day, every week, every month. The choice is yours, and that gets sent to you. We can get quite complicated with that. So including, delivering micro segmentation into your network. So this is an evidenceable dashboard. Okay, and this is also, as I mentioned, real time. So as more devices are added onto your network, as more risks are introduced, you come back into this dashboard, you see that you've fallen out of compliance against some of the evidence items, and it's then down to you to then click on the link to go through into the relevant workflow within the platform to achieve compliance. We're currently pulling in cyber alerts, but we've built a dedicated cyber alerts dashboard. This is also coming out in Q4. So all of the intelligence that I've taken you through in terms of how we prioritize risk specifically for your organization based on the devices that you have and what that means to you, all of that intelligence is within the NHS cyber alerts dashboard. So, used by malware, exploit code, maturity high. So again, we're not just saying, here's a list of all of your devices where they've got a CC next to it. That's useful to know. And of course, we will show you that. But really what you need to know is, how do each of these CCs impact us as an organization? Where are the high risks? And that's what this platform, that's what this dashboard will do. We have something called blind spot. Again, this is a Q4 release. We're very conscious that there's a lot of security products that are being deployed within hospitals, a lot of dashboards. Sometimes there's a little bit of overlap between between what products can do. So what we're trying to do within our product and also with our partners ITHealth is consolidate that down into a single pane of glass. So we've created blind spots. So we will integrate into your other security tools, and we will pull that information in. Again, it's not just a reporting dashboard. We will actually tell you, or certainly help you understand, how you may not be using your other security tools as effectively as possible. So you can see in this example here, we've got a network scanner. Everything in the green are the devices that you should be scanning, and you are. That's absolutely great. Amber, that's devices that you should be scanning, but you aren't. And in the red, we've got devices that you are scanning and you shouldn't, i.e. medical devices. On the right-hand side, we've got MDM. Same rules apply. Everything in the green, these are the devices that are running your MDM client, and they should be. In the amber, these are devices that we think should have your MDM client on and haven't. So we're putting all of this information in, as I say, to just alleviate some of the pressure, just to help, focus all of these products, all of these risks, all of these different agents that you need to install, focus that down into a single pane of glass. And again, this is an actionable dashboard. So from a network scanning perspective, let's say, okay, well, we've identified that there's some medical devices that you're scanning that you shouldn't. We can then send the relevant command into your scanning tool and stop those devices from being scanned. So we really are sort of trying to create just as I say, a sort of single pane of operation, if you like. This is our what we call our quick wins dashboard. So this was actually created in part by one of our first UK customers who said, I need a report that I can take to the board. Doesn't use any IT or cybersecurity vernacular. It can be very easily understood by non-IT people, but it very succinctly will inform people exactly what our security risk is right now and how it differs from last week and why it differs. We want to understand what our critical risks are right now. We want to understand what the mitigation steps are for those critical risks. And we also want to understand who has ownership of fixing those risks, because it's not just IT. Medical engineering and estates are predominantly the two departments that are introducing these vulnerabilities into the network. As I took you through with rapid risk reduction, some of the mitigation steps, the quicker and most efficient mitigation steps might be medical engineering have to do something like installing a patch or changing from a default username and password. So it's where are we right now from a cybersecurity posture perspective? What are our quick wins? Who has ownership over those? So the ITHealth and Cynerio partnership, obviously I said at the top of this, we're sort of very excited about what this means. We've got an unprecedented level of interest in this webinar, which I think is sort of demonstrating that there is a lot of interest in the partnership between our two organisations and what we're able to deliver. So phase one of the development roadmap, this has been completed. So the full IoT, IOMT inventory, device organizational security posture, that is being sent into the ITHealth's dashboard. So our joint customers will have that ability to see that information within that single pane of glass. Phase two, which is Q4, we will send through the DSP information that I took you through, NHS cyber alerts and blind spot. ITHealth also have, obviously they have their own DSP dashboard, they have their own NHS cyber alerts dashboard, and they also have something very similar to blind spot. So again, we're joining these features together to provide our joint customers with a 360-degree view across all of the connected estate from a security and from a compliancy perspective. The risk mitigation, rapid risk reduction, and ADR that exists within our platform. So our joint customers, to then actually mitigate against the risks, have to jump into our platform to enforce that mitigation. But so as I mentioned, the whole point of this is what we want to do is provide our customers with a 360-degree DSP and NHS cyber alerts view and risk mitigation for all devices, not just IoT and medical, but all devices. Okay, that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. That was really insightful. Thank you very much, and kind of resonates with a lot of the conversations that we're having ongoing. We do have quite a few questions to know. We've got kind of 15 minutes left, so hopefully we can get through most of these. So if you are unmuted, Andy, I probably need your help on some of these. So if you're okay, I'll just kind of read them. Perfect, thank you. So the first one is, can we integrate with the likes of firewalls to create policy-based device classification rather than IP addresses?
Well, we can integrate with the firewalls. I guess I probably need to understand more what you mean by based on device classification. So we understand the devices, and as Ryan talked about in the presentation, we can sandbox the rule set. So we look at the traffic that device is using, and that may differ between manufacturer of the same device, the same type of. So an IV pump by one manufacturer may use different protocols ports than an IV pump by another manufacturer. So we will look at that traffic and determine what, where we're applying segmentation, what are the traffic, the source, the destination, the protocols, and so on that's needed to create those policies. So we can do it to that level. If it's something outside that, then yeah, let us know. I'm sure we know what the device types are, so we can probably do what's required. I just probably need to understand what the true outcome is that you're looking for.
Yeah, and apologies, what I should have said was we'll pick up on these questions directly with the person that's asked the question after the event as well, so we can come back and respond on email. Similar kind of and related question, but a bit more specific, is can we integrate with Aruba ClearPass Policy Manager to provide intelligence?
Can I take this one? Yes, we can. We've got a native integration in ClearPass, and I'm glad somebody's raised this around NAC. So personally, I've yet to speak to an NHS organisation that has a NAC solution deployed properly within their environment. Purely because a NAC solution will go out, it will crawl the network, and it will come back, and it doesn't really provide you with any meaningful information around IoT and medical devices. You just get a lot of unknowns, and if you've got a lot of unknowns in a NAC solution, it's then pretty much impossible to build robust security policies within that NAC solution. So absolutely, we integrate into NAC. All of the information that we've gathered, all of that contextually rich information about the devices, their level of vulnerabilities, and what that means to your organization from a security posture perspective, we push that all into your NAC solution, and we can build those policies so that you can actually leverage your NAC solution within a clinical environment.
Thanks, Ryan. Question about the data center, the location of the data center, not the UK based.
So we currently with the data that you'll see in the portal, and where we send the data for analysis, is an AWS. For Europe, we currently use EU Central 1, Frankfurt, and obviously for international customers, we have used the US. So for most customers, having it in Frankfurt is not being an issue. But we store in AWS. If it's a real showstopper, we could look at doing the same thing in an AWS location in the UK. It's not really a big issue.
Cool, thank you. I think that there's been I think quite a few people have picked up on the kind of methodology in which way we kind of connect to the network and see the site being a kind of a span kind of mirror port. So just a few questions around that in terms of managing the traffic and what can be seen, And is there any assumption that devices are all on a single layer 2 subnet or a VLAN?
No. So yeah, we would take a span of a VLAN, or usually multiple VLANs. Obviously, the more we can see, the better. And that could be over layer 2. It could be over layer 3 with the R span. So we generally will look at each individual network topology and work out where the best place to deploy the collectors would be, and it may be deploying more than one to make sure we're not utilizing too much of the WAN links and things like that. So we will, I guess in summary, yeah, we'll take multiple VLANs, and they can be sent to one or more ports. We have, depends on the size of the collector we use, but we can go up to we have 2 SFP plus 10 gig ports on and a single gig copper on the high end unit, and we can do sort of 3 gig on the lower end unit.
Okay, I'm trying to kind of group the questions together and kind of stay on topic. So, question here about again back to this kind of spam report, and in terms of bandwidth, what interface does it use? Kind of what size, I suppose, in terms of gig?
We're using SFP plus interfaces, but we use transceivers. So default is 10 gig multi-mode. We could switch to 10 gig copper, single mode, whatever the customer wants to do, really. So, but it's 10 gig, 2 10 gig ports is normally what we'd have on the collector, and then the actual media type depends on the customer.
I think you kind of already touched on the kind of way in which we'd approach any project is to obviously scope that properly, understand the layout, the type of network, how many locations there are. So again, just touching on that,
exactly,
kind of a question around multiple core switches across multiple locations. So again, we're back into what does it look like, how many do we need, and I'm aware of conversations that have already been had very recently about very widespread geographical areas. We were talking on yesterday about kind of community health environments where we were kind of talking about the need for maybe a small form footprint kind of approach, so you can have many more collectors in different places. So that's fine. Thanks for that, Andy. There's a question about certificates, which I'll answer. So yes, we can detect certificates on devices. We can create reports for those, and we can produce those reports to either be within the dashboard or to be scheduled to be sent out, and we can actually graph those as well. So yes, we can deal with that. So I'm just going to move down these questions. If there's any more. So I got a question here related to Cisco ISE and port authentication, and a move to ACI. Can we kind of just touch on kind of integration with those kind of technologies?
Yeah, we integrate with Cisco ISE and Cisco Prime. That's a standard off-the-shelf integration. So yeah, ACI environments shouldn't really be any different. I mean, it shouldn't really make any difference, really. It's just where we place the collector. It's the same thing. We can span across the fabric, and again, it'll be deploying the kit where it makes most sense. Obviously, putting things centrally can, depending on the links, put if we're putting, say, a gig of traffic to the core from multiple sites, that could be an overhead. So it's why we will look at deploying locally and look at each case individually, really, just to make sure we get the best solution for each customer.
Okay. We're actually scheduled to start a POC with a customer that has a Cisco ACI environment. So yeah, it's absolutely not a problem for us.
Okay, great, thank you. There's a few quite detailed questions here, which I think we'll probably respond to kind of on email, and then we can pick up with those because I think there's probably not enough time to go into these in that much detail. But there's one here which I think you've touched on, which is can the solution help with usage stats on medical devices? I know that was touched on right at the end there, Ryan, but do you want to pick up on that quickly?
Yeah, absolutely we can. So this isn't time on the network. This is medical utilization, because we're analysing the medical protocols that are coming out of the device. So Yeah, absolutely we can. I don't know if you heard the sort of use cases that I went through, but we're actually seeing that it's having quite a sort of significant impact in terms of capital cost savings for some of our US customers, and we're hopeful that's obviously going to be the case for our UK customers in terms of why do we need to buy more of these devices when we're underutilizing a certain percentage of what we have. Obviously, we integrate into the medical engineering CMMS database, and what we found is that the medical engineering databases maybe not as up to date as they would have liked. There's quite often there's sort of holes in their understanding of what they've got deployed. So we can actually push data into their CMMS as well. So we can augment what they've already got and help fill in any blanks that they may have in their understanding of what they've got deployed.
Okay. We have a question related to DSPT and the fact that needs to have kind of 6 months of logging information. So I think we're all in the same space on this in terms of obviously keeping that information in the right level of duration to make sure that we can do that reporting. Any comments on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we recognise that there's a significant amount of heavy lifting that goes into the DSP audit, and we've built this to undertake a lot of the heavy lifting. Some of the organisations that we've spoken to, it's such an arduous undertaking to submit that audit that it can almost be the process that you go through is more of a tick box exercise rather than actually fundamentally securing the underlying infrastructure, because that's what DSP is meant to help you do. So if we can take some of that heavy lifting away in terms of understanding what your level of DSP compliance is, and we can make you more secure, obviously that's a very positive thing.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. As I say, we've got quite a few questions. There's still some coming in here, which I think, given the time, we'll come back to you and answer them directly with you, and then obviously enter into any kind of wider conversations that we need to have about those. But we will be sending out emails to all the attendees with both a link to the recording of this. So if you want to share that, that's great, and also a copy of the slides. We'll follow up with those questions that have been asked to make sure we give you a more formalised response to any questions that have been asked. So don't worry if we've not covered them off kind of verbally now. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that's joined. It's been one of the largest attendances that I've seen for a webinar for a very long time, if ever. So that's been great. Thank you very much. I think it kind of supports the knowledge that we know this is a hot topic for people, and we obviously want to engage with as many people as we can. And thank you to Ryan and Andy for their comments and presentations today. So we'll be in contact. As you leave, there will be that kind of brief survey. If you could just click on that and go through that, that would be really helpful for us. And so we will be in contact with you over the next day or so to provide you with follow-ups. But again, thank you everybody for joining, and have a good, successful remainder of the day. Cheers now. Bye bye.
Thanks all. Bye bye.